What would you do if on your way to school or work you were asked to strip naked and be doused in gasoline before you could continue on about your day? Well, that's exactly what happened to Carmelita Torres on January 28, 1917. The Bath Riots, led by Carmelita Torres, were more than just a protest against these local injustices. They highlighted the severe impact of American eugenics and xenophobia, unmasking how these ideologies influenced subsequent global atrocities. Torres' defiance brought international attention to the inhumane treatment of Mexican immigrants and emphasized the dangerous connections between U.S. border practices and Nazi Germany's genocidal policies. Before 1917, immigration looked very different in the U.S., especially on the U.S.-Mexico border. Mexican nationals were free to come and go from the U.S., with many of them crossing into the U.S. routinely to work, study, or just visit. In 1917, the political atmosphere in the U.S. was changing, with the U.S. joining World War I and outbreaks of typhus, heightening tensions between Americans and minorities throughout the U.S. Immigrants were targeted as international issues arose, and fears spawned that they would bring in typhus fever and other diseases. During this time, the Immigration Act of 1917 passed, where any person coming into the U.S. internationally had new measures to go through, including a literacy test, a new immigration tax, and increased discrimination given to immigration officers. During these changes, newly elected El Paso Mayor Tom Lee, who had built his entire campaign on his obsession with cleanliness, claimed that Mexicans coming into the U.S. were riddled with disease, specifically typhus. He called to the U.S. public health official, General Surgeon Claude Connor Pierce, over these disinfection stations consisted of stopping with the U.S. along the second-class citizens border to disinfect Mexicans coming into the U.S. They would then be inspected by U.S. officials, checked for lice, and given kerosene baths, then sprayed with a toxic chemical cocktail, including the since-banned pesticide DDT and Zyklon B, which were then a direct influence in the building of Nazi gas chambers. In the meantime, their clothes and shoes would be passed through steam washes so hot that sometimes their shoes would even melt. These practices were terribly dehumanizing and dangerous. And one day, a 17-year-old maid coming in to work from El Paso from Juarez, Mexico, had had enough. Her name was Carmelita Torres. On the trolley coming into the U.S., Carmelita convinced everyone in the trolley, mostly women that were coming into work, to say no to the officials who stopped them at the checkpoint. Soon, 200 women were protesting the chemical baths, and a couple hours later, the crowd grew to 2,000 people, with both men and women throwing rocks and bottles at the guards. The protest, led by the brave young teenage girl, came to be known as the Bath Riot, and resulted in a 3-day shutdown of the U.S.-Mexico border. Despite the brave efforts of Carmelita and the women who stood alongside her, the delousing continued, with over 100,000 Mexicans being treated in 1917 alone, and these practices did not end until 1964, with further international outcomes of Nazi scientists citing the El Paso delousing stations as a major influence on their gas chambers and the use of the chemical Zyklon B. Carmelita Torres' courage is not something that should be forgotten, but rather should serve as a powerful reminder of the need to confront and challenge inhumane treatment and discriminatory practices. Her story sheds light on a dark chapter in history, showing how policies born out of fear and prejudice can have far-reaching and devastating consequences.